This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. I'm excited to have you here. Just a little bit of housekeeping before I introduce my guest to you. We are live on the first and third Tuesday of the month at 5 p.m., but you can hear Conversations That Make a Difference every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Live on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. And you can listen online, on your mobile apps, in the car, on YouTube, and by asking Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 radio network. So learn more for the full schedule on dreamvision7radio.com. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, you know I usually start with a prayer. So we're going to say the Serenity Prayer together. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it is by God's grace that we are fabulous, blessed, highly favored, living in our greatness, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others with passion and purpose. And all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. And together we gratefully say, Amen. So this beautiful lady here today, her name is Morgan Danielle, and she is a love and relationship expert specializing in helping women break free from toxic relationship patterns and create the most epic love affair of their life. Morgan, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. I'm so excited to be here.
And I'm excited to have you here. This is a conversation that I think a lot of women need to have. So first I want to ask you is how and why did you get started in this field and have your business?
I love that question because it's just so near and dear to my heart. I got into this work because I struggled with toxic relationships for 13 years of my life. I experienced abusive relationships, emotionally unavailable, pretty much every kind of relationship you could imagine. And once I actually understood why this kept happening, because I would always ask the question, why does this keep happening to me? And so once I understood that there was actually a root cause for it and I learned how to heal it, I knew that I had to shout it from the rooftops. And I learned about coaching and I learned how I could help other women who were going through the same things. And really, that's just when my work took off.
Wow. So have you found that there are more women than we even think about that have experienced this type of relationship, narcissistic, abusive? I'm raising my hand. Full transparency. I left a marriage of 15 years because I couldn't do it anymore. And I kept asking myself the same question. Why did this happen? Why did this happen? What's usually the answer to that question? Is there one single answer, or is there a whole litany of reasons why this happens to us?
Yeah, and I want to say congratulations on leaving that relationship. And I would say, I was not on Facebook or any of social media for the longest time. And when I got on social media, I saw all of these Facebook groups for women who have been going through codependency, narcissistic relationships, toxic relationships. There's hundreds of thousands of women in these groups. And so I think that, social media actually really helped women understand that this is not normal and what they were going through isn't just them and there is more to it. So what I tell all of my clients and what I found for myself was our relationship patterns stem from our experiences in childhood. And so which experiences, the answer to that is limitless, because everyone experiences different things in childhood, has different experiences with their parents, their caregivers, their siblings, their teachers. However, trauma is not what happened to us, it's the way that we internalized it, right? And so what would be traumatic for one person would not necessarily be traumatic for another person, but it really does shape our adult relationships. And what I have found is that when we experience trauma in childhood, no matter how big or small, our subconscious will then seek out people and experiences that mirror what we had gone through or how we had felt in childhood. And so that's where we really need to start. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? We want to look at what is the cause of this? What made me essentially available for this, and start backtracking from there.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. Something that you said, I wrote down. You'll see me writing things down as we go along here because they like hit me, and I'm like, I have to ask her this question. So you said that trauma isn't what happened to us. It's how we internalize it. Could you go a little deeper on that?
Absolutely. So essentially there's our rejection and our abandonment wounds, and there can be capital T trauma, like a parent who was abusive, a parent who left, a parent who was a drug addict or an alcoholic, or there could be somebody who went through a parent that did not give them enough hugs, or they felt rejected by their siblings. Say they had two older siblings that would always play together, and they always felt left out. So that's why I say, and what would be really traumatizing for one person might not be so traumatizing for another. So if you grew up with siblings and one sibling was really unaffected by your parents' divorce, but you were deeply affected by it, and it really shaped the way that you thought about yourself and the relationships that you have. So that's what I say. It doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to react the same way, but what did we make that experience mean about us? Because as children, we absorb everything as if it is a reflection of us. And so if our parents are fighting, we believe that it has to do with us. Or if our parents get divorced, we internalize it as maybe it was something that we did. Or if our parents weren't able to give us the love that we needed, instead of thinking, oh, mom or dad just are not capable of that, we internalize it as something must be wrong with us.
Wow. And so that perpetuates itself into the relationships that we get into as we get older, as we get involved in those relationships. So this, you say that this leaves, why do these patterns leave women feeling depleted, anxious, and overwhelmed? Because I can hang my hat on any one of those emotions: depleted, anxious, overwhelmed, exhausted. And when you get to be in what they call midlife and your hormones start going crazy, how do you deal with all this stuff?
Yeah. So when we experience trauma, no matter how big or small, it can cause us to live in fight or flight mode. And if we're living in fight or flight mode, we're constantly trying to protect ourselves. And as women, it's not safe to be in our body, which is our natural state. That's our femininity, being connected to our body and our feelings. And we go into fight or flight, and then we start overworking ourselves. We avoid being in our body. So we're overthinking, we're overanalyzing, we're on constant high alert. And so essentially our nervous system is saying, oh my gosh, there's a threat all the time. Mm-hmm. And so these micro experiences that we have throughout the day are really high stressors. And so it feels exhausting because we are always on high alert. And so for women who have gone through toxic relationships or are in toxic relationships, there's just a constant threat. There's a constant high and low of the relationship. And for most of us who are experiencing relationships with men who are narcissistic, toxic, emotionally unavailable, avoidant, there's a common thread that I see among women who experience this is we are in our masculine energy. So we are constantly trying to control, we are trying to manage, we are trying to essentially take care of. And so when I call this mothering. And so we're constantly in our masculine, and you might think, well, I thought mothering was a feminine energy. It's not. Mothering is more like, I mean, for those of us, I have a 13-year-old daughter. And so for those of us who have kids, it's like, put your shoes on. Did you brush your teeth? Did you get your homework done? Taken care of, right? That is a masculine energy. And so being a mother is simply being in the energy of motherhood. And that is our feminine energy in that regard. But with men, this is where we are bending over backwards for them. We are taking on their emotions. We're acting as their therapist or their coach. We are trying to manage what they're doing or how they're making us feel. And so when we are in that constant managing mode, mothering mode, we become exhausted. And for anyone who's listening to this, you probably resonate. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted, right? And we're really not supposed to be doing that. And when we are in mothering mode, our masculine in love and dating, we can only attract really toxic men who are in their, some people might not agree to this term, but it's, for lack of a better word, like their toxic masculinity. So not their healthy masculine, but they are toxic and overbearing, narcissistic, or very passive men. So men who do not take the lead. They are not setting up the dates. They're not wanting to provide. They're not wanting to protect. And they are essentially acting like little boys in the relationship. And so what I talk about a lot is we are the energetic match, right? So regardless, it depends on what we're an energetic match to, but we're always an energetic match to something. So you might not like what you're an energetic match for right now. However, it's your energy, your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors that actually make you a match to that. And so if we are attracting toxic, avoidant, and narcissistic men, we have to look at, well, what behavior or who am I showing up as that would actually allow me to be an energetic match, right? And so that's why there is this, love story of the codependent and the narcissist, that awful toxic dance that is so, so common. If you heal your codependency, you will no longer be a match for those types of men. You would never tolerate that type of man. You wouldn't be attracted to that type of man. So, and I can say all this, and I know this can actually feel triggering for some women to hear, because that it does have to do with our personal responsibility, right? Who we're being, but that's truly what sets us free. I've gone through this. I struggled with codependency. I struggled with love addiction. Again, toxic and abusive relationships, emotionally unavailable men. And it was only when I decided to change who I was being that I could attract the loving, incredible relationship that I have with my fiance today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that we have to we are only able to change ourselves. And I think that in relationships like we've been discussing, we try to change the other person. And, well, if only you did this, it would be better. Or if only that, you would be better. But we have no responsibility to change somebody else. This, the male-female relationships are just one way, I think, that this happens. There are people in my life, there are women in my life who come in and they go out, and I limit my time with them because they have the same type of patterns that I saw in my ex-husband. So this is not just a male-female relationship thing, but we are talking about it in the eye of love relationships. But just want to touch on this for a minute, because no one can escape having a possibility of somebody that comes into your life who is carrying the same characteristics that we just talked about the men in our lives who we ended up with and then had to leave. Yes?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where we can look at, sometimes we have, really toxic women friendships, or we have toxic familial relationships. If you think about your mother or your father, if either of those were either codependent or narcissistic or emotionally unavailable in some way. So it can really stretch out, or it could also, I've worked with women who had really toxic work environments. It just really reflected how they felt growing up.
Do you see more of this? Are you coming upon more and more people falling into these patterns with the the insanity of the things that are going on, the unsurety of the things that are going on in the world over I would say is since COVID happened.
Yes.
I think the world is completely different. People are different. They show up differently. Would you agree?
In what context, like, would you say, are they showing up differently in relationship? Are they showing up differently in the dating world?
I think they're showing up differently in general. I mean, I've noticed difference between, like, there are people that are still afraid to go outside. I talk to a lot of people throughout my day, and I'm thinking to myself, how do you move past something that has kept you stuck? The fight or flight, I guess better way to say this, the fight or flight scenario is alive and well and living in the world today. I think that could be truism, but tell me how you feel about it.
I feel like most women that I know, that I have worked with, are in this constant state of stress, constant state of fight or flight, and with all the things on social media and all the news and all the things, no matter which side you're on, it is constant fear, it is constant attack, it is constant drama, and I think it really does affect the way that we're showing up when people are talking about the economy, when people are talking about, the health and all the things. I think it really does impact our mental health. And it creates fear, it creates phobias, it creates all this unnecessary stress on the mind and the body. And to be honest, I don't watch the news. I mean, I love my scary movies. That is a voluntary stressor that I will put on myself. But I don't take part in the drama. I don't take part in that kind of stuff, because I know for myself, my health is my wealth. I actually just overcame a chronic illness over the last year, which is why you and I had chatted a little bit about how stress and, being in constant fight or flight really does impact the body. And so I choose to keep my life very peaceful with the people that I have in it, with the things that I consume. And I really am cognizant of that. And I think that especially as women, we are so much more sensitive to temperature, to stress, to information. We just are. We're wired that way. And so it's important that we really are mindful of the things that we're consuming every single day.
Right. Consuming visually, auditorily, and physically, consuming all this. And all this relentless drive is, well, you just mentioned you just made it through some autoimmune issue. Yeah. So I'm assuming, and I'll say this, how we do anything is how we do everything. And what affects one part of us affects all of us. We are one being, and we have all these different parts of ourselves. So how does all of what we've just been talking about, this relentless drive, this relentless fight or flight, how does this contribute to not just the rise in stress level, but physical illness, autoimmune health issues, like you just said? What's the story?
So this relentless drive. So there has been a increase, I believe, of women entrepreneurs, which is fantastic. It's an amazing thing for women to have money and power that they have not had access to before. And myself being one of those women, I have owned my own very successful business for the last 5.5 years. This relentless drive, it depends on the context of it, right? And so if we have these worthiness wounds that are causing us to try to achieve the next level over and over and over again, or climbing the corporate ladder, that's coming from a place of, I'm not good enough. I'm looking outside of myself to fill a void within me. So there is a healthy drive that does not come at a detriment to yourself. And there is a drive that is caused by self-abandonment, right? And so, like I said, like, one can be very healthy and it can be exciting and it can be wonderful, But if it's coming from a place of I'm not good enough, and maybe now I'll be worthy once I hit this next income level, once I hit this next milestone in my career or my business, then I'll be good enough, then I'll be happy. That I have seen really cause so much burnout, especially in the coaching industry. And so it all comes down to how are we taking care of ourselves while we are in this drive, in this pursuit. And so what I experienced, I developed breast implant illness. I got my implants when I was 20 years old after a very abusive relationship that I had. He told me how disgusting my body was and all the things. And so out of feeling not good enough, I thought that I would get surgery, I would get Botox, I would get hair extensions, I would get the fake tan, and then he would come back and he would love me because he left me for another woman. And I had my implants for 10 years. I, of course, healed a lot of my unworthiness wounds and really have a wonderful relationship with myself. However, I had the implants. And what happened to me over the last year was I noticed that I was actually self-abandoning in my business. And I was being overly available. I was saying yes to things that I didn't really want to say yes to. I was denying my intuition for things, and I was making investments not from a place of joy. And so that really, and I believe, I don't know what everyone else believes, but what I believe is that our illnesses are attached to an emotion. And so I was essentially being forced to slow down and take a look at what was happening. And when I was very ill, I could not be so available. I could not say yes to the things that didn't light my soul on fire. And it put everything into perspective to me. And I ended up getting surgery, getting them removed. And as of recently, after implementing all of the things that I teach for love and relationship into my professional life, my symptoms, for the most part, have now diminished. And
wonderful.
So, yeah, and it truly is, I believe, was one of the greatest lessons that I could have learned, because again, it's allowed me. I mean, a lot of the women that I work with as well, they come to me and they have these autoimmune, they have these gut issues, they have stress-related illnesses. And I now got to see what that was like firsthand. Yeah. And I'm so grateful that I could do that. So now I obviously know how to help my clients with that, but can really come from an empathetic and personal standpoint with them.
Yeah. And this is a great place for us to take our first break. We want to continue this conversation when we get back. Stick with us. We're with Morgan Danielle, and we will be right back.
Are you one of the many people who said, someday I'll write a book, but don't know how to get started? Many wannabe authors have begun with the same question and are now published by Authentic Endeavors Publishing, a multi-imprint hybrid publishing company. Whether you're writing an autobiography, a memoir, a kingdom book, a children's book, a business book, or an anthology, we have a place for you. Visit www.AuthenticEndeavorsPublishing.com for more information or to set up a 20-minute consultation. Your title of published author is within reach.
Born Able exists to highlight and normalize the humanity, worth, and abilities of infants and children born with complex medical conditions. We write, illustrate, and publish books for these children and have featured over 1,000 children throughout the world. Our videos and posts have been viewed over 100 million times on social media as we strive to showcase these amazingly abled kids and fight relentlessly for equal medical care, regardless of diagnosis. All proceeds from Born Able books go directly to the Born Able Foundation. To nominate a special kid to be featured in a Born Able book, go to www.bornable.org to learn more.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back. We're with Morgan Danielle, and we are talking about real talk, masculine and feminine energy. We're talking about getting into relationships, women who have gotten into relationships that are not ideal, let's say that. Many different characteristics of those relationships. And before the break, we were talking about how because of being in a relationship and not feeling good enough, you made some changes to your body. You had to reverse them. Thank you for being so candid about your situation. And now, how does that? You said you before we went to the break, you said that you have empathy for these women now who come to you for help. How has your coaching, your helping women changed because you have gone through something that someone may have come to you in the past and you have had no experience with it, but now you have had experience with this one particular thing? How does that make how you work with your clients different?
I honestly think that's one of my greatest, fortes as a coach is women come to me because they know I've experienced what they've experienced. And so now having gone through that, I'm able to, of course, understand at a deeper level because I've always been empathetic. However, there's only so much that you can understand unless you've been through it. And so now I can understand when my client is, feeling the way that she's feeling and she's overwhelmed, overworked, and can't even, have the capacity to set boundaries or to put herself out in dating situations or be able to have healthy communication with somebody. Because when we are in constant fight or flight, or when we are overwhelmed and overworked and stressed, we lack flexibility and we tend to not be able to utilize our emotional intelligence because we have such a short fuse when we don't feel well, when we're overworked, when we're tired, when we're emotionally depleted. And so I now, from a personal standpoint, can share how I navigated all of that in feeling the same exact way. And also, what I believe about autoimmune is when we think about it, an autoimmune is attack of self. And the way that we're treating ourselves makes a huge difference. I mean, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the water experiment. I can't remember who conducted it, but they spoke to a water droplet and they spoke to this water droplet with love, and the water droplet went into a beautiful formation. And then they did the same thing, but they spoke hate to this water droplet. And it went into this very distorted, ugly formation. And so if we are 70% water, I don't know if we're more than that, but if we're 70% water and we're talking to ourselves like we are our own worst enemy, imagine what that's doing to your body and your health. And of course, you're not going to feel good throughout your day. And if you're not feeling good about yourself and you're talking to yourself terribly, then you're also going to be available for somebody who talks to you terribly and who does not treat you the way that you deserve to be treated.
Right. And the water experiment, it is Masaru Emoto. I think it's really interesting that his name is Emoto, and its emotion comes from, I think they come from the same root word. And the emotions are what drive the crystallization of the water, the patterns of the water, as you just described. So, and you're absolutely right. If we are 70 or 80% water, what is all of that bombarding with that doing to our bodies, our physical bodies, besides the emotional upheaval that it causes within us? So Do you have some tools that you can share with us for people who are listening to be able to at least take inventory of themselves and how they may not be setting boundaries? I'll give you an example. For me, my brother-in-law, God bless him, my sister and he have been married for over 40 years. And he used to say to me, Teresa, you have got to say no every once in a while. This was going way back. And I've learned how to say no, not as often as I'd like to, though, but I've learned how to say no. But he said to me, Teresa, you've got to say no. I'm when this one wants this and that one wants that, and you're so available for other people, when do you have time for yourself? And this is coming from a man who I know since I was a young kid. He married my sister. But he would say to me, he would test me. He would tell me, and he would say, I got to take my father to the doctor, and Bobby needs a ride home from school. My nephew needs a ride home from school. Can you go pick him up? And I would say, okay, I will. And he said, no. And he would slam his hand down. I could hear him slam his hand down on the table or the desk or wherever he was sitting. You have got to learn to say no. I said, well, then quit asking me stuff that you say yes to. So I think that if you have that, wanting to help, the supportive, the service mindset, like many of us have, and I think it gets in our way. Give us some suggestions on how we can, some tools that we can use in order to be able to set boundaries and take care of ourselves on the levels that we need to in order to be able to step into who we really are.
Absolutely. So self-love and self-respect are very, very correlated. And so by setting boundaries, you are respecting yourself, which means people will also respect you. Not everybody, but those are not the right people in your life. And so, like I said, the more that you respect yourself, you will be an energetic match for the people that do respect you. And one way we do that is by being able to communicate what feels good to us, what doesn't feel good to us, and what we will and are willing or are not willing to do. And so I'll give you some examples that I have used with my clients. And because I'm a love and relationship expert, these will be love and relationship based, but they can be applied to other things as well. And so if a man wants to just hang out with you. You say you meet him on a dating site and he's like, do you want to come over to my place at 10 p.m. tomorrow night? And you're looking for your dream man. You're not looking for a hookup. You're not looking for somebody who's not going to take the time and the effort to take you out on a date. And so what you would say was, it feels best to me to go out on a date when I'm getting to know someone. And so, myself, I never in a million years would have said that when I was codependent, because I just wanted somebody to want me. And I just wanted somebody to give me attention and to essentially save me from myself. But when I started setting boundaries like that, I started attracting people who did want to take me on dates. They didn't just want to call me up for a hot booty call at, 10 or 11 p.m. same night. And if somebody is, say they're taking you home from a date and they're wanting to come inside, you would say, I had a really wonderful time with you and I'm not quite ready for that yet, but I'm looking forward to when I am in the future. If you did have a good time with this person, right? If somebody is pushing your boundaries with wanting to fill you up on the first date, you're saying, that doesn't really feel comfortable to me. I'd like to take this slower. And you see how I'm saying it in a way that somebody can hear you. I'm saying it in a very classy, high value way where you are having open-hearted boundaries. This is something I teach all of my clients, because for those of us who have been burned deeply, if we've been codependent and then swung all the way to the other side of the pendulum and are now hyper independent, and we're like, nobody's going to mess with me. And then we're like, no, you can't do that. How dare you? That's just, and I've been there. There's no judgment. I've been there. I've been both the women on each end of the spectrum. But I will tell you that a woman who has open-hearted boundaries, the one who does not need to be prickly and guarded, that's the woman that a man will basically lay down his life for. And it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of self-trust and self-love and self-respect to be able to do that. But it's a practice, and you take baby steps.
That's awesome. So the first time that you did that, what was the feeling that you had after you closed the door, went inside, he went home? What was the feeling that you had?
scared and liberated all at once. Because the thing is like, you know, I had trouble saying no my whole life, and it caused a lot of, I actually had multiple stress related illnesses in 2018. And it was because I was so severely codependent. And when I had those stress related illnesses, again, you know, similar situation to my most recent experience, but I could not, I couldn't bend over backwards. I couldn't be the yes girl for everything. And so when I started saying no, it really did liberate me. And it was like a sigh of relief. And it can be scary because you don't want that person to reject you. Yeah. However, if they do reject you because of your boundaries, they are not meant for you.
There you go. Yep. I think that a lot of women have trouble with that particular statement. If they reject you because of your boundaries, instead of and knowing that they're not meant for you, that's a different scenario for that's the perfect scenario for someone who has come through and has been able to mind their words, mind their feelings, know that it was for the right reasons. But sometimes I think that because of what we talked about earlier, patterning and whatnot that we've grown up with, I think that a lot of women would be back right in the place with what's wrong with me.
Yes, absolutely. And if it wasn't safe for you to have boundaries as a child, or you had a very enmeshed relationship with a parent, or you learned that boundaries just were not safe and you weren't allowed to have them, then it feels almost unbearable to set boundaries. And it feels almost unbearable to be rejected. Or if a parent left, or you got rejected by a parent, a caregiver, whoever, it feels almost unbearable because when we were children, we didn't know what to do with such a heavy emotion. And so we try to do all these little things to avoid ever feeling that again. But ultimately, the feeling keeps perpetuating over and over until we actually allow ourselves to feel that emotion, trust ourselves to handle it, and then move on.
And all of what we're talking about can be generationally passed down if you don't nip it in the bud, so to speak. If you don't take a stand for who you are and be firm in your resolve to not pass along the patterns from your childhood or the emotions that you experienced in your childhood because of certain ways that you were treated, or, as you say, the traumas that occurred that somehow manifested all of these crazy beliefs. We're not good enough. We're not blah, 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 all that stuff. We can pass that on to our kids. Yes. If we don't do something about it.
Absolutely. And that can be really, really painful to see. If we were in toxic relationships and then we see our daughter in toxic relationships, or we're seeing her do the same things that we did, whether it was an eating disorder, whether it was drugs and alcohol, that was actually really one of my driving factors to heal. I actually overcame drug and alcohol addiction as well. And that was one of my driving factors, was I wanted to be the example for my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great. The attitudes that we have can be passed on to our children, not just the addictions, but the attitudes as well. And I've seen that in so many people. Like, you can see, oh, you're your father's son, or you're your mother's daughter, for sure, because you carry the same kind of attitudes. And attitude is so important, I think, especially when we're working with people, talking to people, just in general, just for relationships in general, positive attitude, positive outlook. I'm all about the gratitude factor, so, and I think that a lot of people, let's use gratitude, for example, because that's my conversation most of the time. And I wonder how that plays into, like, if you had to make a list every night, if you're in a toxic relationship and you had to make a list every night, could you really sit down and add your significant other to a gratitude list because of something that might have happened during the day?
Really great point.
Yeah. So I think that if we can't find something to be grateful for, and something, maybe we need to change what we're looking at, or change who we're with or whatever. But so I would think that that's a baby step in making a change in your life. You're the professional. Tell me what you think.
So gratitude has changed my life. That is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, because in 2018, I was ready to just not be here anymore. I really struggled with depression and anxiety, and I just never thought that anything was going to get any better. And I started, when I started to get into personal development, I learned about gratitude. And that is a practice that I do every single day. And I've been doing almost every single day for the last 10 years. It's a piece of what I've used with my clients to heal. It's a piece of what I've used to heal I don't struggle with depression and anxiety anymore. I actually, the way that I feel every day, the joy that I have, there's the common saying, happy people don't have the best of everything, they make the best of everything. And so before I have the relationship that I have today, I was so grateful for the relationships that I did have, and the relationships that were coming, and the lessons from the painful relationships I had. So I practiced gratitude in those areas. And now we're in our dream home, and I have my dream business, and I had to be grateful for all of the money that I had before the business came, before the success came. I had to be so grateful for the homes that I was in that were not my ideal home. And, my hot water, and just all of the small things that we take for granted every single day. And when I, struggled with my health over the last year, I was so grateful for the things that I could still do. Yeah. And, that I still had my eyesight, that I still could go on, walks from time to time. And, that I still had opportunities to get the help that I needed. So gratitude plays a huge part. And I think, and I know this word can be kind of triggering, but like the victim mentality, I struggled with victim mentality for a very, very long time. The why me? Why is this happening to me? And when I started to just be grateful for the things that I did have and the lessons that I was learning and seeing, wow, everything is happening for me, even if it doesn't look like it right now, even if I can't see it, this is going to be some way, somehow, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And so that was what I really had to be super mindful of every single day. When I would catch myself in a thought that wasn't serving, I would always go back to gratitude.
Awesome. And with that, we have to go to our next break. Perfect spot. We'll be right back.
Do you have an uplifting personal story to share? The Daily Gift Book series began with a daily gift of gratitude and a daily gift of hope, both available on Amazon. We're looking for people like you to share a story in our continuing series. Kindness, peace, inspiration, and generosity are just a few of the upcoming topics in the Daily Gift Book series. Your stories matter, and they make a difference. Visit www.dailygiftbookseries.com to find out more on how to submit your story for one of the upcoming titles.
With the hustle and bustle of today's world, how often do you practice gratitude? How can you make it a habit? Gratitude is more than putting a smile on your face and being thankful for the roof over your head. It's expanding your perception and finding gratitude for every opportunity and every challenge. Gratitude is a feeling of connection to things higher than yourself, to God, and to others. We focus on light, positivity, and connections. When we join our grateful hearts together, the power of community attracts more people and even more to be grateful for while making a difference. A grateful heart is infectious. Share it. Join our Grateful Hearts community on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/The Grateful Hearts Community and watch your blessings blossom.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Speaking of gratitude, Grateful Hearts is out. A Grateful Hearts community is a great place to go if you want to have a daily dose of gratitude, if you will. A Daily Gift of Gratitude is the first book in the Daily Gift book series, and it is on Amazon, along with A Daily Gift of Hope and A Daily Gift of Kindness. The next one coming out is A Daily Gift of Peace. I think all of these things lead to a sense of peace in the mind, the body, the spirit, and that they are in perfect order. This was a little tap on the shoulder from God a long time ago for me to do this. And I'm really excited that Daily Gift of Peace will be out on September the 21st, which is World Peace Day. And so I'm looking forward to having a conversation in the third weekend, the third Tuesday of September. I'm looking forward to having some of the authors, the woman who wrote the foreword, and a few guests that have been part of this project on my show that time. So, and I hope Morgan will submit something for the book as well. I'm excited to see that. I love the conversation about gratitude, and something that you said that Tony Robbins says all the time. Life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And everything that you said is total edification that statement is absolutely true. When you can find gratitude, which you have, which I have, in the things that have happened for me. If it didn't happen that way, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I didn't go through all of the things, some of the things that you mentioned, I can relate to along the way. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be having this show and talking to people about things that matter, because I was the kid in school who didn't say anything. But now I have a reunion coming up, and who's the leader?
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I'm like, we have this group of people that have done this all the time. And because I have some technology savvy, I get to be the one that steps into the leadership role. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable. Like, why can't somebody else do this? So, but I wouldn't be able to do that if all the things that happened in my life didn't happen the way that they did. I think that I wouldn't be where I am today. And I know that I've heard you say that, and everything that you've said, I've experienced that with you as well. Any suggestions on that? On what we've talked about, anything else that you can give to our audience to help them move past what might be holding them back from living their best life, being in their best relationship, even if you're not ready for a relationship yet, just being the best you. So what are some of the other things you can give to the audience that they can take home with them today?
Absolutely. So I always tell my clients that the relationship that you have with other people is the extension of the relationship that you have with yourself. Mm-hmm. And so by you are with you every single day, 24 hours. And if you are in toxic relationships, you don't like yourself very much. Yeah. And so this is where we have to be very, very mindful of how we are speaking to ourselves, the way that we are showing up for ourselves. Are we making time for ourselves? Are we having fun with ourselves? Are we creating things to look forward to? And are we giving ourselves proper time for self-care? And so self-care, it doesn't just mean bubble baths and events. As much as we love that, that's amazing. Do that. But also self-love and self-care is the way that you're treating your body, the way that you're treating your mind. And so if you want a man or a partner who treats you like you are the most important person, cherishes you deeply, adores you, treats you like a queen, then that is your job to treat yourself like that now. And so if you want your partner to tell you how beautiful you are going to look in the mirror and tell yourself how beautiful you are. If you want a partner who cares about your emotions and you want them to validate you and just act like, that they're there for you, then that is what you do for yourself. You validate your own emotions. You feel through your emotions and you don't make yourself wrong for them. You show up and talk to yourself like you would want your partner to talk to you. And so that's the way that we heal the relationship to ourselves. And one of my favorite exercises that I share with all my clients is the mirror exercise of saying, I love you in the mirror. It is so incredibly powerful. I remember the first time that I ever did that exercise, I could hardly get through it. And I felt resistance. I cried. And now I'm always looking in the mirror and saying, wow, Morgan, I love you so much. And it's so natural because I love myself so much. And you can tell how much I love myself by carry myself and the way that I, show up in the world and talk about myself. That is one of the most important things that you will ever do in your life is have the relationship that you do with yourself. And so that's my advice to anyone who is listening is I want you to get crystal clear on the way that you want your partner to treat you and start showing up in that way now.
Awesome. I love that. I love the mirror exercise. And I also know, talking about the power of your words, every single word that comes out of your mouth has power. So what are you speaking to yourself? If you're speaking, I love you in the mirror, if you're speaking, I heard Joel Osteen say one time, whatever follows I am will find you. And I went,
ooh.
God, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. So the power of I am is ridiculous because, if you say I am worthy, I am enough, I am beautiful, I am whatever, make positive I am statements about yourself. And even if you don't feel it, but it comes into your mind, it's something that I think you need to work with. And for me, I have in the past, I have said things about myself that are not so nice. And now once you do this practice and you do the exercise that you just talked about, Morgan, loving yourself in the mirror, you can't say those words. They get stuck. They don't come out. It's true. Have you experienced that? You can't say I'm whatever. I'm to this, I'm to that, whatever.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you because it's like once you start practicing saying the truth, because the thing is your higher self really resonates with the I love you, I'm beautiful, I'm all of these things because that is your ultimate truth. And so when you start resonating with your ultimate truth, if you start going back and saying, I'm an idiot, you're going to be like, ew, wait a second. Like that doesn't feel right. And I've caught myself being like, oh, that was stupid. And then I'm like, that wasn't stupid. You did a great job. You learned from this. And so it's all about correcting yourself. It's about the bounce back rate. So as quick as you can correct yourself, it cancels it out, as I like to think.
And I think it all goes back to gratitude. We'd say that again, because, all the examples you had where everything that you do that makes a difference, you have to feel grateful for the fact that it has taken you somewhere else. And I always say that gratitude leads to abundant life, because when you appreciate something, it's like telling God, thank you so much for this. Please give me more. Please give me more to be grateful for. Please give me more. And the abundance factor, and it doesn't necessarily have to be money. It can be abundantly beautiful relationships with people. It can be abundantly beautiful, attitude about anything that might have bothered you before is not going to put you in that place. That's my opinion. And you have spoken the same thing. Is there anything else that you want to share before we have to close in like 6 minutes? We have 6 minutes left. This hour has flown by.
It really has. And I want to add on that gratitude for a moment. I had a client who was in a severely abusive narcissistic relationship, and she had been grinding. The relationship ended years ago, but she still held on to a lot of resentment and all of these things. And we had worked together, and I was like, look at this beautiful life that you built. If this wouldn't have happened with him, then you would not have this beautiful life that you've built for yourself. And so I want you to practice being grateful for that experience. And so she had been grinding her teeth for years. After that experience of recognizing her resentment and choosing to use gratitude instead, she stopped grinding her teeth at night, and it hasn't come back since. And so it really is like, just like we said, how our emotions impact our physical body. It's so true. Yeah. And another thing that I would add in is our behaviors, right? And so there's a lot of people, I used to be this person too, who would read all the self-help books and listen to all the self-help things and do the courses, but the behaviors do not change. And that's where there is one of the biggest disconnects that I've seen. I've worked with a lot of really incredible women who have done all the personal development, and they're like, man, I don't understand. And so it comes down to, are we choosing different things, right? Because we are doing meditation and we're journaling and we're going on walks and we're going to retreats and doing our gratitudes, but then we're still hooking up with our toxic ex or responding to him every time he reaches out to us, and then we have constant anxiety and we don't feel good about ourselves. We've got to look at that, right? And so that's one of the biggest pieces that really changed my life as well as my clients, because it's, I say that education without action rarely makes transformation. And so, or education without implementation rarely makes transformation. So that's what we have to, it's wonderful to listen to all the things, but then the way that we embody it is by making different choices. And so my company is Empowered Femme, and it's become the energetic match. The way that you become the energetic match is you have to think, feel, and do things differently. And if we are not doing things differently, then we're going to continue to have the same experiences, no matter how many gratitude lists we write. Right, exactly. So we have to take a look at that and say, what are the things I know that I shouldn't be doing that I'm doing? What are the things that I know? Because we have our intuition already knows. It's screaming at us every single time we do it. Right. And so getting clear on that, and then making those baby steps, making those simple little shifts in our behavior that end up being the quantum leap that changes everything.
Right. How important is the forgiveness factor?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that is a big piece of the work that I do with my clients. Forgiveness. We cannot move forward if we are still holding on to the past. And I actually just re-recorded a bunch of modules for my course, and forgiveness is one of them. And one thing that I said in there was, forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for us to wipe our hands off and say, I'm done letting this control me, because I didn't realize how detrimental that resentment was. And I forget who says this, but it's like, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person
to die. Exactly.
And so if you cannot expect to have a healthy, loving relationship, if you are still having all the resentment towards your ex who cheated on you and all the men who did not treat you right, you just can't get there from there. And so we have to allow ourselves to let go of the past, not because what the other person did was right or okay, but because we deserve peace. And once we practice forgiveness, it's actually so funny that we're talking about this, because I drew this card today and it said forgiveness heals. Oh. And it said time to release repressed anger as it's blocking your health and happiness. And I drew that for a client of mine today. And it's so true. We get to have peace. And, there's people out there who have been holding on to resentments for things that happened, decades ago, and they haven't been able to move on. And it robs them of the beautiful life that is waiting for them on the other side.
Yeah, robs them of joy. Mm-hmm. Robs them of joy. Morgan, I can't tell you how much I appreciate having you here today. This has been an incredible conversation. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you? And I heard you mention a course. Can you talk about that for a second, and how people can get involved?
Absolutely. Yes. So I do everything off Facebook and Instagram. So my name is Morgan Danielle on Facebook, or can I give you a link for these?
Sure. Absolutely.
So yeah, my name is Morgan Danielle on Facebook. Instagram, my handle is _Morgan Danielle. And I have a couple different programs. I have my Empowered Academy, which is my 6-month healing intensive program. It is quite literally the program that takes you from healing the root cause of your toxic relationship patterns to creating the most epic love affair of your life. I have so much that happens in between there, but ultimately it is about the woman that you become that makes you the energetic match for your dream relationship. And my course, it's called Break the Cycle. And it's just the digital version of my coaching program, Empowered Academy. It is a self-paced course with modules that touch on everything that you need to know. It is a roadmap that all of my VIP clients go through that takes them from their toxic relationship cycles to creating the life and love that they are on fire about.
Awesome. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. And we'll have to have you back again. This conversation, an hour is just not long enough for this conversation. But until then, I hope that everyone listening will have make a difference in the lives of others and make a difference with yourself with the conversations that you're having. Conversations do indeed make a difference. We'll see you next time.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our station owner, Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.